A former Arby's manager has admitted to urinating in milkshake mix. Wow. It's being investigated. He's also being investigated for child pornography. This guy was, now you can't blame it on Arby's, although I can't, what is that mystery meat that I don't even know what it is that they put in an Arby's sandwich. But now, okay, now the milkshakes, pick it up.
This was a truly bizarre story, just because obviously it started with this former manager getting investigated for distribution and possession of child pornography. And he admitted to cops, he's like, yes, I'm sexually attracted to children. And then as they're conducting their investigation and questioning of him, it's, oh, by the way, I also would pee in the milkshake mix a couple times for, as he said, sexual gratification. But then he says, oh, don't worry, I'm almost positive that I threw those batches out. And they looked through the security footage at Arby's. They found him actually peeing in the milkshake mix. They didn't see him throw it away, though. So
where this story lands to me is, what does an employer do? I mean, really, first of all, there's an employment shortage. People are not wanting to work. I mean, what does Arby's do? I mean, how do they identify this guy? It's virtually impossible. And it's almost caveat emptor nowadays, isn't it? Well, whatever you're doing, buyer beware with it. It's a damn milkshake now. You got to be careful.
Well, and it is a really interesting story because of that angle. How do you screen for this, right? You can't potentially go through everybody's computers in the interview process to see if you're hiding child pornography on there. So there has to be a better way for companies to kind of make sure that you're not hiring a milkshake peer, I guess. But if you're going anywhere,
well, if you're going to eat that weird sandwich, God bless you. As many as 27,000 Main Street investors are at risk of losing part of the retirement or investment savings after GWG declared Chapter 11 bankruptcy last month. Attorney Michael Bixby joins me now to explain this, and this is a guy that deals with these sociopaths all the time. This story is really troubling. Tell us a little bit about what these Wall Street hustlers did here.
Sure. So GWG Holdings it's an alternative asset management company, PAP, and what they did, their business model was to buy life insurance policies. So the company would go out and buy life insurance policies. If you had a life insurance policy on yourself and you didn't want it anymore, you could sell it to them. Maybe it was getting too expensive for you. And their whole business model was based on raising money from investors to go out and buy these life insurance policies.
Betting on death is what they were doing.
They were betting on death, and here's what they were doing. They were using non-traditional models to do it. So they said, we're not going to follow the standard actuarial models. We've got our own things that we're going to do. And it was extremely risky because if they were wrong even by a little bit, they basically, PAP, they issued bonds. And they had payments that were due to the bondholders that they had to meet. And what happened is they stopped being able to issue their bonds. And in 2021, they didn't issue some financial statements, some SEC filings, their auditor resigned, and basically their ability to go get new people to invest in the bonds to be able to continue paying for the bonds and invest with other life insurance policies, it dried up.
In other words, the investment, they would stay ahead of going bankrupt by selling more, almost like a Ponzi scheme, isn't it? There's no difference. I think a headline that I saw in here is they were borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. Anytime we see that in Wall Street, that's a Ponzi scheme. Now, my guess is the DOJ will do nothing about it. Nobody will be prosecuted. But put that in terms of who was affected here. Let the viewers understand who's the risk.
That's exactly, I think, the important thing, Pap, is you understand, because this isn't just, a hedge fund did something crazy and the hedge fund owners are now. What we're talking about here is literally Main Street investors. We're talking about over 25,000 individuals. These are retail investors who were sold these bonds. Because it wasn't. The hedge funds are probably too smart to really make a major investment in these things. We're talking about mom and pop investors. We're talking about people that I represent, teachers, nurses, regular folks, working folks who went to a financial advisor who told them, I have this great bond for you.
Now, are you handling the case?
Yes.
Okay, and as you look at the case, my guess is this. When you micromanage who's in charge, you're going to find that the folks involved have past histories of similar kinds of deals. Which brings me to this. Why in the world won't our Department of Justice prosecute these folks? Yeah, they're dressed up in Armani suits, they drive Bentleys, but they got MBAs from Harvard and Yale. But why won't the DOJ just prosecute them just like we would a kid selling marijuana on the street corner?
No, Pap, I mean, this is a constant problem. You and I have talked about this before many times. And the issue is what these Wall Street firms have learned, what these investment companies have learned is, hey, we're going to have this stack of disclosure documents they can plop on the table that's that thick. And essentially what they did, even in their bankruptcy filing, they said, well, we told you we were going to do this. We told you that we could use your bond payments to us, where you purchased the bond, to pay other investors. And so they're going to tell the DOJ, they're going to tell any of the authorities, we disclosed this. We properly disclosed it to everyone, which brings me to the relationship. How did the people end up in this? The teachers and the nurses
Right.
and the other normal people,
Right.
they didn't go and find it themselves. We're not talking about, Wall Street bets type investors with GameStop. We're talking about retirees, regular people who went to a financial advisor who told them, hey, I've got this bond. And you think of a bond, bonds are secure, right?
Right.
Bonds
That's
supposed
the safest thing you always think about is I'm going to put my money in bonds. I don't want to put it in equities because I can lose everything.
That's exactly the thought. So bonds supposed to be backed by something. The problem with these were high yield, extremely risky, and they were illiquid. You couldn't trade them. So these investors were told, some of the people I've spoken to were told they were safe, which is the exact opposite of what it is. And what's crazy about this, if you look at, because it's brokerage firms, it's Wall Street firms all around the country who are recommending this and selling it. And it's actually a small group. It's sort of a cabal of these certain Wall Street groups that were actually selling the GWG bonds to their clients.
Well, and the problem is until you start throwing brokers in prison, until you start throwing the folks that engineered this in prison, in the next 20 years, they're going to be talking about this in their Harvard MBA school. You know what? These guys got away with it. It's worth the risk. Here's what's interesting to me. So many things you said there is interesting, but one thing, what you described was they put it in the documents, and I'm sure the writing was tiny, but more importantly, they basically, it sounds like they basically said, we're going to steal from you. If in the end, we're going to steal from you, but we're disclosing that we're going to steal from you. Therefore, under the SEC rules, it's okay. Is that kind of what happened here?
That's the argument, but here's the good news when it comes particularly to the brokerage firms and brokers and advisors who are selling this, Pap, because the FINRA guidance in a lot of these cases that I'm handling are in FINRA arbitration, and that's the good news I think for investors is that somebody who was missold this, a retiree, somebody who's elderly, or somebody who couldn't take on this type of speculative risk, even if they were handed the disclosure documents, what FINRA says, at least, and we argue, is that you can't lie to someone and then hand them a piece of paper saying, I just lied to you.
In other words, they've anticipated it because we've seen Wall Street do it so much. Wall Street creates a document.
Yep.
It's a 100-page document. Somewhere in the document it says, we might be lying to you, and you know what? We might even be stealing your money, but we're disclosing that possibility to you, therefore we're protected. And then finally the SEC comes and says, let's rewrite that a little bit. Because the SEC they're dead on arrival. It's the most useless, it's almost as useless as the EPA or the FDA, almost. But they come in and they say, we're going to fix that at least, right?
Well, partially. So, I mean, if you look at how that's actually implemented, I think that there's definite guidance there that we use in our cases, but the reality is the SEC using that in their prosecutions? Are they using that? Not so much.
Yeah.
Really. So it's there. There's helpful things. The good news to me and the message is that the investors who are in this stuff, they still have an option. They still have the ability, even if GWG through their bankruptcy, maybe there's no money left at the end of the day, people who are sold this by their broker and financial advisor have hope. Those are the type of people that I'm representing, that our firm is representing, me, Peter Mouget, the rest of our team, where we're handling these claims and we're fighting against these brokerage firms that knew. I mean, if you go back to 2015, there's a research report before most of the people were even sold this thing. You know what it said about these things? It literally said that rob Peter to pay Paul, borrow from Peter to pay Paul. It called it unrealistic assumptions. It said things like fantastical fantasies about this investment. So this was known. The brokerage firm should have known this.
Don't you expect your broker to know that? Isn't it like going to a doctor and the doctor says, I haven't kept up with literature and I didn't know they had something called a pacemaker that could save your life. I'm sorry. And this is the same thing. I mean,
It's exactly the same thing,
Yeah,
Pat.
I'm sorry, I didn't see that article. I'm your broker. I'm the person you rely on. And the other problem is when you have a pension program that buys by the gazillions, nobody's paying attention to that, are they?
That's exactly right. And what the brokers want to do, the financial advisors want to do, is when it comes down to brass tacks, they want to say, I'm a used car salesman. They want to say, no, I don't actually owe you any duties. And they'll do that. You would not believe it. It shocks the clients that I represent.
It says you ought to expect that from us because I don't have an education. Do you realize part of the defenses I've seen is the broker says, I really don't have an education to give you advice. I used to be be a car salesman.
Yeah.
I used to be an insurance salesman, but now I'm your broker. We see it all the time, don't we?
It's wild, it's unacceptable, and it's something where we need to have people held accountable. That's what we're working to do.
Any chance you can get any of these guys thrown in jail?
I highly doubt that, but I do think that there's at least something for being able to recover what people lost if we bring claims.
Yeah. Michael Bixby, thank you for joining me. Okay.
Thanks, Pat.
That's all for this week, but you can find all of today's videos on YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Ring of Fire. The videos are going to be posted throughout the week, and you can follow us on Twitter at America's Lawyer. I'm Mike Papantonio, and this has been America's Lawyer, where every week we tell you stories that corporate media won't tell you because their advertisers don't allow them to tell those stories, or their political connections just won't permit it. We'll see you next time.